Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Simpson, and I'm just going to be taking you through a little bit about geography this afternoon. I'm going to split the session into three parts. So I'll tell you a little bit about geography first and show you 3 or 4 slides. I'm then going to get you to do a very quick little activity to get you thinking geographically, I hope. And then a few more slides, and then it's time for questions. It's a really short session. I would just advise you probably not to put the questions in this section for questions just yet, because it might be that I answer your questions as we go through. So perhaps leave your questions, and then there'll be time at the end to type them in, and I'll run through as many as I can at the end of the session. So first of all, as I've just said to you, my name is Mr. Simpson. The other geography teacher is Mrs. Mansell, and between us, we teach geography at QE. You can see some nice pictures of our students there doing a bit of field work. I'm going to scroll it on there, and it just tells us a little bit about that. I'm not going to read every section, but it's really why have you chosen geography? You've chosen it for the right reasons. And there's a whole list of bullet points on the right-hand side of your screen that you can see about enjoying the subject, perhaps about enjoying field work, because we do take you out for a number of little visits. Some locally, some further afield. We get out to the coast when we can, because one of our topics is coasts. So we need to take you there to show you that. Leicester's as far away from the coast as you can possibly be. So we need to take you on a day trip out there. Presumably, a lot of you are thinking about doing geography because you're good at it. And that's a good reason to do a subject at A-level. If you've been good at it at GCSE, the chances are the same is going to apply to A-level. You can see there our students do very well, 100% A-level pass rate for the last 7 years when me and Mrs. Mansell have been running the subject. 86% of students got an A star to C back in 2019, which is the last time people did a kind of proper exam. We're both experienced, committed specialists in A-level geography teaching, so you would be the judge of this, of course, but I think we probably know what we're doing, and the results sort of suggest that as well. Remember, another good reason to choose geography is just because geography is a well thought of subject. It's a traditional subject. People know that if you study geography, you've got numeracy skills, you've got literacy skills, you've got an interest in the world around you. So it's well thought of, I think, by employers once you've done your A-level. So I'm going to scroll on to the next slide. A little bit there about, I'll just see if I can move that out of the way. No, move it back slightly. There we go. A little bit there about what you'll learn when you're doing A-level geography. So here is a question I'm sure many of you would ask, what do we do at A-level? So you can see in year 1, what maybe your school calls year 12, because it's our first year here, we call it year 1, contemporary urban environments. Now, this is a study of the urban environment that we all live in. What's changing, any issues concerned with the urban environment. I suspect you've done a little bit of that at GCSE, although it'll feel a little different doing it at A-level. Coasts, as I mentioned before, coastal systems and landscapes is the proper title. So again, how the coast is changing, the issues associated with coastal erosion, sea level rise as a result of climate change. And then we do something which you won't have done before called changing places, which is a very new topic to geography, all geography. It's not something that's done at GCSE. So we're specifically looking at this area, this part of Leicester, and comparing with a very different part of the world, and trying to see why and how they are significantly different. And we'll use all types of media to look at the places. So it won't just be traditional textbooks. It's going to be articles, it's going to be online resources. It'll be statistics, so there'll be a bit of numeracy involved in that section, but also images and paintings and music. So all sorts of things to get a feel for each of those 2 places. And of course, we'll start your coursework. So this is something you don't now do at GCSE. So you'll have to choose a topic to study for your coursework which interests you. As long as it's connected to the specification, we're happy with that. You'll collect some fieldwork over the summer, i.e. our current year 1 students are just about to collect it over the summer holidays. And then when you get back in year 2, we'll write up our coursework. That'll be 20% of your final grade. So it's a real significant chunk. So choose something you enjoy. Get a lot out of that, I think. Water and carbon. So a bit of physical geography there. Carbon links very closely to climate change. So you might think it's a little sciencey, but really the focus in geography is how increased amounts of carbon in the atmosphere are changing our climate. And can we do anything about it? And should we do anything about it? And how do we do something about it? And then we've got something on global systems and global governance. Those of you thinking about politics as a potential option, there's a little bit of politics in this one. And then natural hazards, which I know you'll be familiar with. So you can see 3 topics in year 1, 1, 2, 3, and 3 in year 2, 1, 2, 3. You can see fieldwork's attached to the ones in year 1. That's because we need to show you how to do your coursework. And then we've got some other topics in year 2. Okay, that's enough of me for a moment. Let's just get you to do a little activity if we could. So what I'd really like you to do now, if you can, is you can either do this in your head, or if you've got a scrap of paper or piece of paper next to you, I'm going to ask you to just see what you think about the image I'm going to show you now. Because one of the things we have to do in geography is we're going to have to learn our geographical skills. Okay, it's not just about learning content. So one of the things we often look at in geography are images and see what they can tell us about a place. So this that I'm now showing you is an image. Now I'm not going to say anything about this image, but I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I've got my watch here so I can see. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to just tell me what you can definitely see from this photograph. That's a definite. That's not a, maybe. It's a definite. What can you definitely tell from that image? I'll give you 2 minutes. Write it down if you like. You don't put it in the chat or anything. Just on your own little bit of paper, write it down, and I'll show you some answers, see how you get on in a moment. So 2 minutes from now, what can you definitely see on that image? I'm going to be quiet while you think. I think there's 4 things. I think as good geographers, you'll be thinking, I can perhaps tell what's happened. But at the moment, it's just what we can definitely see. So look at it with geographical eyes and look for definites. At about half your time. Okay, that's roughly 2 minutes. So I wonder what you can definitely see. I'm going to scroll on to the next slide now, and you can check whether what you've written down are definites or whether they're probables. So the definites are there's people walking along the street. The buildings are damaged. Okay, yeah, see, I can see at least 3 people and some in the distance, if you can see the darkness in the distance. So some people, okay. What else can I definitely see? I can see a collapsed building to the left of the image. Put it back again so you can see that. See on the left of the screen there where my cursor is, I don't know how well you can see my cursor, but that's definitely a collapsed building. I can see the street is covered with debris, and concrete. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, there's bits of concrete around where the woman with the yellow top on is walking. These great rubble. This is concrete. These aren't boulders or rocks. This is just concrete. And finally, there's a woman right in the middle of the picture, shielding her nose or her face. You can see she's holding up, it's almost like a mask. like we'd wear in, in current times. Okay. Now that's all I can definitely tell. But what do you think the picture shows? Okay. So this time, again, similar amount of time, as good geographers, what do you think's going on in that picture? The definite we've cleared, so that's a good thing to start with when we're looking at an image. Okay, what's definitely there? Now, as good geography students, as good geographers, what on earth do you think has happened in this image? Try and write down a couple of things that you think have probably happened, and what's the evidence that this has probably happened? So once again, I'll give you a little bit of time to jot something down. I'm doing this because I want to just reinforce the fact that geography is about learning knowledge, but it's also got an important skills element. And just one of those skills is the ability to look at a piece of data, in this case, a photograph. It's qualitative data is the proper word. It's descriptive data, and then make a judgment. And of course, you'd need some evidence, wouldn't you? So if you say you think something has happened, why do you think that thing has happened? So I would be looking at what's happened to the buildings and why there's this rubble here that we just talked about, and why this building has collapsed. And why might this woman be shielding her face? And why are people standing around? What could explain all of this that's going on? Okay. Now, if we're in a classroom, we'd be doing this in pairs or two or threes or fours or something, and then we'd have a little bit of discussion going on. Appreciate we can't do that now, but I did want to give you something to think about rather than just me talking at you for half an hour. So let's have a look, should we? Yeah, I'm going to move the image off the screen, but you've all seen it for long enough now. So let's have a look at what I think. How many of these did you get? I got 8 of these. I think there's an earthquake. In fact, I know because I know where the images come from, but I hope that if I looked at that, I think there seems to be some damage resulting from an earthquake. And the reason I know this is because the buildings have collapsed, but some others have, some others are still standing. The ones on the right of the image were still standing. And that often happens in an earthquake because buildings are built to different standards. So sometimes they collapse, but sometimes they don't. I think the building on the left seems to have pancaked, which means that all the floors seem to have collapsed on top of one another. Some structures are just built without proper earthquake controls. I think the people, why are they wandering around when there's been an earthquake and there's so much danger potentially? They're probably looking for people who they can rescue. Maybe they've got relatives in the area. That would explain to me why people are wandering around. Doesn't seem to be any emergency services there either. What else? Maybe this is a low-income country. Maybe it's a tropical climate, just by looking at the clothing that people are wearing, just by looking at maybe the fact that the buildings have collapsed so easily, maybe lower building standards. Maybe she's holding the rag to her face because of the smell of death, really, and the fact that people are lying in those buildings, trapped. There's a hole on the roof in the building on the left. I don't know if any of you spotted that. Maybe that's a rescue attempt. And finally, I think just because it seems reasonably calm, there doesn't seem to be a lot of dust, maybe there is that smell, that it might be actually several days after the event rather than 10 minutes after the earthquake has occurred. So look at what a lot of things we can tell. I wonder whether some of you just written there could have been an earthquake. And I understand that because I didn't give you a lot of time. But look at how, as geographers, we can interpret all that information from that image just because we know what earthquakes do and how they work and what tends to happen. So I hope you got some of those. I hope you can see how you could get some of those even if you didn't, and how that's a skill that we learn in geography. Okay, so a couple more slides from me, then some questions from you. Fieldwork. Okay, what do we do in terms of fieldwork? We'll do some microclimate stuff. Just locally, we'll do something on Leicester. Why would we not? You know, we live in a big city. Why would we not study Leicester? Why would we go to Nottingham or London or something, you know, when we can study things close at hand? We take you out to the coast to Sheringham. We'll look at regeneration and change in parts of Clarendon Park, which is the area just outside where the college is. And of course, you'll have to think of your own idea for your own fieldwork. So plenty of variety in terms of fieldwork. We don't take you on a foreign jaunt anywhere. We wouldn't be able to anyway at the moment, of course. But we do a variety of fieldwork, some very local, but all in the UK. What does coursework involve? Okay, so we'll do lots of fieldwork, as I've just explained to you, to prepare you for your coursework. Choose the course, as I've already said to you, choose the topic that you want to study. You'll have support and guidance from either myself or Mrs. Mansell. Don't feel you've just got to do it all yourself. We will genuinely give you a lot of help and support in choosing what you'd like to do. It'll be between about 3,000 and 4,000 words, which at the moment you'll be thinking that's loads. How on earth am I going to write that amount? Honestly and truthfully, what people find the problem is, how do I keep that down to only 4,000 words? That will be your problem, not getting up to that number. And as I said before, it's 20% of your final grade. So it's a big chunk of marks. If you do it well, that really sets you up to score well and get a good grade. Assessment through the course. You'll be assessed in lots of ways. I mean, we will mark work that you hand to us and submit to us in the way that your GCSE teacher, I hope, has. And we'll put feedback on there and give you ways in which you can improve your work. And we do that throughout the 2 years, of course, and you'll have mock exams and practice exams, of course. At the end of the course, there'll be 2 geography exams worth 80% of your A-level qualification. You know where the other 20% is coming from because I've already told you that. So if there's 2 papers and they're worth 80%, that's 40% each. One's a physical geography paper and one's a human geography paper. So the physical geography paper covers the 3 physical geography topics that we study, the hazards, the carbon and water, and the coasts. And the human geography paper covers the human geography topics that we cover. So that's the urban environments one, that's the changing places one, and that's the global governance one. Each exam is 2.5 hours. Each exam has 4, 6, and 9 mark questions and 20 mark questions. So you'll see there's a range of marks available on each exam. They start with a 4 mark question, they now have 2 6 mark questions, and then a 9 mark question, and then a 20 mark question for each, times 3 for each of your topics. I know you have had an odd year this year, as students here have, and you haven't done your GCSEs in the normal way. So it's worth just pointing out how things will be in 2 years' time when you're hopefully ready to do your geography exams. Okay. So finally, last slide, how will your learning be supported? So you're provided a textbook, either an online one or a hard physical textbook, which you can use. You don't have to buy it, we'll provide it for you. You just have to give it us back after 2 years. We have something called WQE Online. So this is our intranet, where we put all our teaching resources so that you all have access to that. We put our homework on there for each week. We put practice questions on there. So it's a really useful resource, our students tell us. We will do one-to-one tutorials with you. Myself and Mrs. Mansell only teach A-level geography. So built into our timetable is time for us to see you individually. You can book one of those as and when you need. That'll be a little different. I've spent years teaching in schools, 11 to 18 schools. And when you do that as a teacher, you don't have time really, because you're teaching year 7 or year 9 or year 10. But built into our timetable is this space to be able to see you individually as and when we need to, or you need to see us. Okay. You can contact us there. Our email addresses, and hopefully we'll see you in August. But before I do that, I am going to stop sharing the screen with you, and I'm then going to be able to see the question and answer section. So I would advise you now, if you've got questions, type them into the Q&A section on the screen, and I'll go through them one at a time. So anything at all that you need to ask, now's the time to be able to do that. So if I click on that. Okay, at the moment I've got, there we go, we've got a few questions popping up there. I'm just going to run through them all. I'll just give you a few minutes to put a few more on, and I'll just go. I'm not going to type an answer. I'm going to answer them live, each one at a time. Oh, yeah, I can see Joshua as there. Apparently, if you can, apologies if you call Josh, but it says Joshua on there. So Joshua, yeah, it is a result of an earthquake. You were right, absolutely, when we saw that image. Okay. Okay, Mohammed there. Which exam board will we use? It's AQA, Mohammed. It's the AQA exam board. So if you're looking to get ahead of the game and do a little bit of research, it's the AQA A-level specification. There's only one A-level specification for AQA, and that's the one we use. Okay, so Farha, oh yeah, that's the same question. Okay, it's AQA. Nathaniel Nathan, what exam board do you study? Same question. Okay. For the 20-mark essay questions, will those be based on case studies? Not in the same way as they were at GCSE, no. Yes, you'll have to, what we call, at A-level, we call it exemplifying your answer, which means bringing in information to help you from case studies to answer. But the 20-mark question will not be a single case study question. It'll be, well, I need to make this point, and so I'll bring in some information from this case study that I've studied. But I can also bring in some information from this other case study that I've studied. So yes, you will use information to help you with your answer that you've learned in case studies, but it won't be one big block where you've just got to learn the case study off by heart. It's a bit more subtle than that. So partly is the answer to that. It's the closest thing to a case study. Okay. Okay, so how will we learn the content? What methods, Fran? Okay, that's an interesting question. We will show you some different methods that you can use to learn the content, because it is really important, because it's what we call a linear course. Your exams are right at the end of the 2 years. So you have to learn it as you go. If you don't, you're in awful trouble. So what we do, one way we do this is we after we finished a short topic, we will do something called a revision showcase. So that means we then set you maybe a week to write some revision notes on the topic we've just done. And we'll give you some ideas. Maybe you can use mind maps, or you can use cue cards, or you can do something on your phone, or you can put it in tables. Yeah. What we won't accept is you just highlighting your class notes, because that's not making revision notes. So you'll have to make some condensed revision notes, maybe on a big A3 sheet of paper, and then you bring them with you, and everybody gets it out on their desk in front of them. And we call that a revision showcase, and everybody in the class can see everybody else's revision notes, and maybe that'll give you some ideas about how you can revise. And then, of course, what you do is you need to learn your revision showcase notes, because they are more condensed and more concise than would be your class notes. Our students tell us that at first, oh, I don't like doing revision showcases because it takes a bit of time, but then they get to realize why we're doing it, and they think it's a fantastic idea. And they tell us this, this is why we do it. So I hope that answers your question, Fran. It's through revision showcases where you have to make some revision notes, bring them into class, we'll check them, and we'll work on that. Okay, done that one. So now on to Anna. For our coursework, can we choose any geographical topic to study, or does it have to be similar topics we study in class as part of the course? Good question, Anna. It can be any topic that connects to the AQA specification. So if you go online and look at the AQA specification, the A-level AQA specification, anything that's on that specification, you can do your coursework on. So for example, there are some optional topics, and that means that as a college, we choose, for example, to do coasts, but there is a topic on glaciation. So I suppose you could do a piece of course, difficult, wouldn't you? You have to go and find a glacier, but you could do a topic or a piece of coursework on something that we don't cover in class. Most people tend to do it on something we cover in class just because it's more straightforward. But as long as it links to the spec, choose something that interests you. Choose something that interests you. We'll give you some help, but the short answer is as long as it interests you and it's on the spec, you can do it. Okay, Harry, what campus is geography taught at? At the moment, we're on University Road campus. I'm looking out across Victoria Park as I speak to you at this very moment. So at the moment, we're on University campus, and I expect to be here next year. I can't say more than a year in advance, but next year on the University Road one. Okay, Fariha, what will happen if we aren't able to go to places like the coast due to lockdown rules? Well, I very much hope that we will be able to, but the simple answer is this year we weren't able to go to the coast because we were all in lockdown when we were supposed to go. And so we had to kind of do something similar to what we would do on the coast out on the field out there, which is not ideal. But it's the same as every other geography student throughout the country. We just had to make do in the best way that we could. I can't get around it. If there are lockdown rules and we can't go somewhere, we can't go somewhere. But you would be no different from any other student anywhere else in the country, unless you lived on the coast. But then maybe you wouldn't be able to do some of the urban stuff because you wouldn't be able to travel to an urban environment. So we just have to get around it. Touch wood, things will improve, won't they? Things are starting to get better. Okay, and then finally, Katie, in lessons, are we given the sheets that have information on the topic that we could use to support our revision notes? The answer to that is sometimes, yes, we will provide you with resource sheets in class. Often what we'll do is we'll provide you with a grid perhaps, and you fill in the grid based on what we do in the classroom. And so we've given you a structure and then you put information onto that structure. We won't give you lots and lots of resource sheets with lots of detail on them because I don't think that's particularly helpful. But yeah, we will give you some resource sheets when we think it's appropriate and when we think it helps. On the other hand, you're not going to be sitting making lots of notes from the PowerPoint things either. It's a bit of a mix. We'll try and mix it up a little bit. Okay. So are there any other questions? Oh, what revision book should we use? Are we given a revision book? No, Fran, you're not given a revision book. The revision book we recommend is the one I'm reaching over now to get, and I don't know how well you can see this, but it's the CGP revision book that I'm holding up now towards the camera. It's called AS and A-level Geography. But we will provide an opportunity for you to buy that in college because we get a discount for doing it. So I wouldn't go and buy it just yet because we'll give you the option to get that in college. So that's the best one. It covers the whole spec. Obviously, we won't need the whole spec. We just need the bits that we cover. But that's the best one. And that's the one we'll use. So it's the CGP Geography A-level Revision Guide. Okay, are there any more questions from anybody? I'll give you a minute in case there are. Okay, fantastic. I look forward to seeing you all in September, I hope. Take care over the summer and bye from me. Oh, how many lessons do we have a week, Sadfika? 4. 4 hours and 10 minutes. Okay, I'm done. Take care. Hope to see you all in September. Bye for now.